Being unapologetic in our ambition as Black women who are mothers and entrepreneurs is a non-negotiable. If you're listening, I already know who you are. You're the woman who wakes up before sunrise, not just to feed a baby or prep breakfast, but to draft a business plan. You're the entrepreneur who's negotiating a business contract and then braiding your daughter's hair. You're the professional who sees her multiple roles not as obstacles, but as superpowers. This is for Black Mompreneurs, a podcast created specifically for Black women entrepreneurs who are millennials, Gen X, and who are also navigating the beautiful, complex world of motherhood. I'm your host, Femi Lewis, and I want to be crystal clear about what this podcast is and what it isn't. So this isn't another generic podcast focused on business that pretends that balance is easy. This isn't a show that will share the top secrets for making 6 or 7 figures. I can't do that for you because I haven't made 6 or 7 figures yet. And this isn't a platform that sees motherhood as a limitation. This is a community, it is a movement, and it is a sanctuary for Black women who are rewriting the rules of what it means to be an entrepreneur and a mother and being successful. Being a mother, a Black mother who happens to also be an entrepreneur, is not easy. And here's why. I'll take you on a little story. This is how I got here. When I began shifting my thought process from being a stay-at-home mom to a work-at-home mom, I began joining groups on Facebook for business women, right? And I realized early on that even within this space, there was another niche. That niche was moms who were business owners. And all too often, these boss moms, mother hustlers, and brilliant business moms, they presented a perky white woman who was willing to share some free information and resources to everybody. And while some other women like me, a Black mother who had the agency to stay home and make money between trips to the library and trips to the park, were present, they were few and far between. And I often felt like our presence was just that, a presence. Like, you have the right to be in this group, so you're here. But there were no real referrals to our services or businesses. I didn't ever feel like I was being featured on lives or anything like that. And whenever a discussion kind of related to race and motherhood and business was posted, it would immediately be taken down. And there would be a follow-up post like, "We don't do that here. We're all one." Well, if you know anything about that statement, we are all one, we know that that's not always true. It felt like often I was invited to the party but didn't feel seen or heard, right? Or like, yeah, you're invited to the party, but just shut up and enjoy the cake. It was only after George Floyd's murder went viral 5 years ago, can you even believe it's been that long, that influencers, business, anyone on social media really began making comments in support of an end to racism and police brutality. And there did seem to be a shift happening. But honestly, it really, for me, felt very contrived. It felt like, let me do this. Let me say these key messages online so that I don't lose my following. It never really felt like an authentic stance or authentic allyship that I know that so many Black women wished really existed. And 5 years later, we wish that some of the changes and shifts that happened were still here. We see in this social political landscape right now that so many things that were made important are not anymore, and people have nothing to say. And so again, Black mompreneurs have a presence, but not a real seat at the table. So as Shirley Sessom says, they don't give you a seat, you bring your own. So on the one hand, I can understand this decision, like not to discuss race or politics. It's It's very difficult. If you have the agency to avoid the discussion and go on with your life, it's much easier than seeking understanding so that you could be a true ally, especially when you don't necessarily understand what that means. And it's even easier not to take a stand and possibly lose your core followers, right? But as a Black woman who has always been very aware of the presence of race and racism, that's not an option for me. And as a mother, my awareness is constantly growing, right? I realize I would have to put on the full armor to strengthen myself and to teach those same values to my children, because I know that that's who I came from and what I can offer. And I also realized that entrepreneurship presented a certain type of freedom that can never be found in a professional organization. Entrepreneurship for me is an indescribable feeling that is unparalleled. And in that moment, right, of me putting this all together, I realized the magic of Black Mompreneurship and that this was a distinct space that needed a distinct platform. And so I started putting this together. Now, some might argue that identifying as a Black mompreneur doesn't matter. They might present the idea that we are all moms, that we all run businesses, and that just makes us business women who happen to have children, and that our race and ethnicity don't matter, right? And that might be fine for them. But for me, I feel like this identifier does not really consider the positioning of Black women who are mothers and who are they in their uniqueness as entrepreneurs. And as a result, it silences us, right? It silences that woman who is a Black mompreneur. And maybe that's not purposeful, or maybe it is. It still says your uniqueness does not matter, your intersectionality does not matter. And we know that that's not the case. But I'm here to tell you, right, that being a Black mompreneur does matter. It matters greatly. And I want to just define for you what a Black mompreneur is for me. And hopefully it's the same for you. A Black mompreneur is a Black woman who is an entrepreneur and a mom. Very clear, right? She could be a traditional mother who gave birth to her children, whether that's vaginally or C-section. I don't get into those wars. Or she can be a mother figure, a woman who has taken a mother role to a child because their parent is not present in their lives. So that could be through guardianship, adoption, anything like that. Right? We don't discriminate when we define motherhood in that way. A Black mompreneur can be from anywhere in the African diaspora. So that can mean the United States, the Caribbean, Europe, South America, Central America, Africa. My only requirements for having guests on this show: you are a natural born woman who has taken on the role of a mother. You are of African descent, and you believe fully that one of the greatest keys to freedom and independence, because they are different things, the key difference to freedom and independence is entrepreneurship. I decided that this podcast was necessary for a few reasons. So, Black women are one of the largest sectors of entrepreneurs in the United States, but there's tons of work that needs to be done. We need to stop hustling and create solid businesses that help us to create generational wealth. If you know anything about generational wealth in this country, Black families are at real space of, according to JP Morgan Chase, 61% of Black women self-fund their startup capital, which impacts our personal savings. And even with so many resources in the forms of grants and funding programs and accelerators and pitch competitions, Black women entrepreneurs are applying for traditional funding and having rejection rates that are 3 times that of white business owners. That's astounding. And when you think about that, that really tells you about how much sustainability a business will have long term. We deserve more than a seat at the table. We need a defining voice for ourselves and our specific needs and that of our children. Black children are looking to their parents, specifically us, their mothers, for guidance and support, right? And long we've been telling our children, go to college, get a good job, buy a house. Those things are important, but we also need to create mindsets in our children about independence and creativity. We need to create this so that there's a platform where women can realize that their work in entrepreneurship can fuel their children's lives and the Black community. So I'm talking to all of us, myself included, who is building a business and a family. We do not want to be defined by others. Every week, we're diving deep into real conversations about not only navigating practical skills, strategic business growth, and sustainable success, but we're also making our mental health a priority, our mental and our physical health a priority. Because we know when our mind is right, our businesses and our families can overcome any challenge. And most importantly, we'll be hearing from real women, Black women who are mothers, who are in the muck and mire. We're balancing these children and balancing our businesses, all while being good wives, good friends, good partners, and we'll talk about this. We're going to talk about the things nobody else will tell you. This raw, unfiltered journey of building a business while raising children, the moments of doubt, the incredible triumphs, the strategic moves, the emotional landscape. To the woman listening right now, juggling a Zoom call with a toddler on her lap or a toddler in the background, drafting a pitch while waiting for dance class to end, and dreaming big despite the world telling you to slow down. This is for you. So how can you listen to the next episode? We're dropping every Thursday. You can subscribe, you can share with a friend, and you can join our community. You can follow us on social media, on Instagram. Our handle is @4Black Mompreneurs. For additional content is there and community connections, and we'll even show some behind the scenes moments. So that's it. That's the end of the podcast for today. I just want you to remember this is more than a podcast. This is a movement. And I'm happy to be one of the people that are pushing us all forward. Welcome to 4 Black Mompreneurs.